So a few weeks ago, Venerable Kunga gave a BBC on the right view, and she quoted about the longest journey is from the head to the heart. So embodying the Dharma has been on my mind. To eat thinking of the Dharma, walk thinking of the Dharma, offer service thinking of the Dharma. But I speak for myself, I'm unable to do that all the time. 24/7, every second, every minute. A lot of introspective awareness, mindfulness, energy is required to watch this mind. So when I try to do that, and I catch myself when I fail. And one of the biggest reasons was attachment to chocolate. And once that happens, I catch my senses going to the chocolate, and Dharma seems to be out of my mind. So during a review of engaging in the Bodhisattva way of life, Venerable Losang actually mentioned about people getting angry. And at that time, I was afflicted with anger. So he shared that we can think of the causes and conditions that arise in their mind that cause them to be afflicted. So I shared with him that I was using an antidote from the Lamrim Chenmo. It states that when people get angry at you, think that they are helping you to purify your previous accumulated negative karma. And I also shared that I need to think of it like they are my teachers teaching me something, telling me something about my mind. So Venerable Losang was very kind. He said that, yes, that's another form of antidote to anger, but don't be too harsh. So also, there's also no right or wrong. It's just different perspective on everyone's side. But who's the right one? The right one is one who's able to turn their mind fast and remove the afflictions. So when the afflictions arise, catch it early and put the Dharma from the head into the mind. A head into the heart. If not, we'll be just slaves to our emotions. So some ways I try to practice is while I'm eating, I try to think of the kindness of the donors, people who cook, and those who give us food, who planted it, who grow the crop, and make the aspiration to lead them to the path of awakening. So when I walk down the road, I will also try to think of the teachings that I've listened. And when I'm afflicted, I will walk down the road reciting the name of Guanyin Bodhisattvas, which is also a form of the 1,000-arm Chenrezig. So as most of you all can tell now, I was brought up in a family that's not expressive. My sentences are usually short, and I don't really talk much or explain much. So how do I practice filial piety in a family like that? So I do small things for them, such as leaving them a note or text saying, breakfast is on the table after I finish my run in the morning. Or I buy special breakfast for them after finish my marathon in Singapore, because Singapore is like a heaven for food. So practicing bodhichitta also starts from head down to the heart. So when I shovel, I say that, oh, it's so fun. So what I meant is, it is so joyful to see people walking down the path and being safe. And I made the aspiration that whoever uses this path will be safe, and may they also walk to the path to enlightenment. So when I'm afflicted by the cold, especially here, I think of the sentient beings in the cold hells, the dear and those suffering, and may they be well and gain some warmth. And when a nun was sick, all I could think of was to care for that sentient being in front of me, remembering the motivation for bodhicitta. For me, the more I am afflicted, the more I will turn to Guanyin and the green Tara. But of course, we are all humans. We need empathy, we need compassion. But we can't rely on that all the time. The source of refuge, which is the Dharma, will be able to cure all these afflictions instead of turning to people, turning to food, and things like that. So many things I learn are actually from the teachings, but part of it, I start to see that is from all the difficulties that I faced. Turning each one that comes into practice by using things that I learn. So one of it is using food. So for example, I actually get this inspiration from Andrea and Tao. in Taiwan, in China, Singapore, and even in Tibet, they always eat dumplings. I think they call it momo in Tibetan. So you need to shape it, squeeze it tight, steam it, sometimes boil in water. And sometimes the filling will make the skin burst if you put too much in it. And then after doing all that, you will have ready-made dumplings. So life is just as such. The difficulties sometimes make me feel like I'm being squeezed, pressed, sometimes burst from too much feelings. But I come out stronger, more mature, greater in capacity. And sometimes Donyo, who is another Anagarika here, he calls it the pressure cooker. So I try to think of it that it is such a great gift. I get to live the Dharma. And in times of adversity, the heart of bodhichitta didn't leave me. So I also start to understand something that I learned in the Shikshamana course, which has passed last month, which is called acceptance. This is a hard one. I start to accept how the senses affect my mind, and guarding the senses, as mentioned in the Bodhisattva ways of life, is really important. So how do I practice that? So one way that I saw that I started to practice was I went for a COVID vaccination recently. And just before the injection, I was starting to get nervous. So what was I nervous? Is it the side effects? Is it the pain? And I start to realize I was nervous because I'm starting to catch my senses reacting to things that were happening. I was seeing my eyes going to the plush toys, as this was something that I did during school days. I would play with the claw machine. And then I start hearing things like the music that was playing in the store. And that music was familiar to me. So I started to get nervous. And I immediately started chanting the mantra. So side effects and pain were actually not on my mind at that time, as I feel that pain to me is bearable, and it will not be worse than the turmoil of cyclic existence and being reborn in miserable realms. So accepting that my practice was not up there was more painful, and I get tighter and harsher with my own practice. So when things happen like that, I feel that I'm always very fortunate to be here, because during the Vajrasattva retreat that was just over, it was so fulfilling with teachings from Venerable Khajo. And one of the things that kept as a reminder was, we tend to be very harsh on ourselves compared to others. And Venerable advised us, we need to have compassion for ourselves too. So as we approach winter retreat, I'm also very fortunate to get the opportunity to practice here, as I didn't get the opportunity last year. I was doing retreat from afar in Singapore. And this year's title was 4 Mindfulness of Practice, and the 4 objects are the body, feelings, mind, and phenomenon. So I got a good introduction to practice on the body. So what was going on? One day the toilet was actually clogged, and I learned how to unclog it. And while doing it, things from the toilet spills out. It was rough, smell was bad, and we were discussing about it in the toilet. It was like, oh, okay. And then when I was cleaning up, I just thought to myself, hey, look, isn't that a good introduction to winter retreat? The foulness of the body. Amazing. Yeah, so it's like I get it real life, hands-on, and experience it. So after cleaning up, I felt so happy, and it was like an unclogged toilet with an unclogged happy mind. So as we continue to put all these difficulties or things that might irritate us into practice, may we continue to serve sentient beings just like the 1,000 Arms Chenrezig, and make all these actions very joyful every day, filling with kindness, care, and compassion. Thank you.